Welcome to Second Listen Saturday on the Parenting Roundabout podcast, where we share some fun moments from a past episode for your weekend listening pleasure. Look for new episodes every Monday through Friday.
Today, we're talking about kids' activities and how they are really kid and parent activities. So, of course, I'm thinking about this because I'm in a hotel room with my daughter's team.
Yeah.
Having taken 3 days away from school and sort of away from work in the rest of my life to be here. I mean, I can work from here, but
yeah,
I couldn't really work on the, 7-hour bus drive. So anyway, it's just so different from when we were growing up, and it was like if you had an activity, it was at school or after school, and you probably got yourself there, and maybe your parents picked you up after, and maybe they went to like your games or performances, but they didn't go to every single practice. Or, and I don't go to every single one of my kids' practices, but I go to a lot of them, and a lot of other parents are there for every single thing. And then there's all of the administration of it that parents seem to have to do. And I mean, were our parents doing that kind of stuff? I mean, my particular parents were not, but somebody had to be the Girl Scout leader and the...
I think my mom might have. I'm not sure where I stand on this because I remember her being pretty involved. She was certainly the Girl Scout leader. She was the church school teacher. I took a lot of dance lessons, and I remember her making costumes and having to do stuff for that, and other moms being even more involved than her, to the point where there were factions at the dance school, and somebody's mom didn't like some other kid, and that kid was not getting the solos and all this stuff. So there was a lot of parent drama.
And this is why we now have a TV show called Dance Moms.
Exactly. Yes, there was that situation. That was my activity. I didn't do sports. I did school stuff, but I remember my mom being involved. Now, she didn't work, so that may have. I mean, I was definitely her job, so she would have considered things like that to be part of her, her professional obligations.
Yeah.
But I know she was not as involved as some, and sometimes I wished she had been more pushy, but
I thought you were going to say you wish she was less involved.
No. I mean, I'm remembering just like this Dance Moms drama and thinking, how come, Mom, would you go kick this mom's butt for me, please? But I feel like she was, and I also feel like, at least in my observation, I mean, I was very over-involved and doing stuff, but I wanted to, and I picked that out for myself as a parent. And I see other parents who picked that out for themselves and wanted to do that. And I see other parents who did nothing. So I'm not sure whether it's kids today, activities today, or it's just that some parents want to do it, some parents don't want to do it, and some parents do it even though they don't want to, which may be where you're feeling right now.
Well, I think I really feel like there's a greater expectation for parents to be involved, whether or not they can. They sometimes have several other kids, or they have a very busy job, or whatever it is. But I feel a little bit judged if I'm not doing everything.
Do you judge other people who don't? Do you feel judgy toward them in return?
I mean, I try not to, but things like our figure skating club is so tiny. And as with everything else, there's a certain percentage of people that does all the work. And with the smallness of the group, it's very apparent, who's doing what. And when you don't have all hands on deck, it's really hard to get anything done. But, that's not fair to parents who, their kid wants to skate, but they're not that interested, or they don't have the time, or they don't have the money, or whatever it is. It's not really fair to judge them for that. But the
Yeah.
fact remains that, like, these things require volunteers. And
Right. I mean, would you be willing to pay an extra whatever amount of money to have professionals come in and do it?
you know, we've talked about it. Sometimes we feel like, because, you know, part of the rules are that if you don't volunteer X number of hours, you do get
Yeah.
charged for it.
Uh-huh.
But it's a little hard to pay somebody to do some of this stuff.
That's true.
I mean, we did, like, for our last competition, we couldn't find anybody to be the announcer, like, you know, and now taking the ice is blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And finally, the person who was running the competition paid her, like, teenage boy neighbor to do it. And he actually was really good. We're like, we'll use him again. In that case, it was totally worth it to pay him because nobody was willing to do it.
Yeah.
And it was something you could sort of hire out. But some of those sort of administrative and organizational things, I don't know if you can. But yeah, I mean, every time I talk to my parents about, like, well, I'm going here and then I'm going there and then this person has this, and they're like, we never did any of this stuff.
Yeah, by the time I was doing that stuff, my mom was no longer around to ask, did you do this stuff?
Right.
But I feel like she did,
I think
to some degree.
With them, it was a combination of, they were both working. There were 3 of us in 4 years.
I was an only child, so.
Right. And I just don't think there were either the activities were not the way they are now, or we just weren't participating in the ones. Like, you know, I certainly, when I was 11, 12, 13, was not competing in or participating in anything that required travel on the weekends, let's say.
Right.
Where both my kids are, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that the nature of the activities has changed to a certain degree.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. And what's hard is, like, for so many of these things, if your kid just wants to play for fun,
right,
it's really hard to get that opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, there's like this all or nothing thing that is hard.
Yeah, I really, you know, with my kids, we've done a lot of these special needs sports things like Special Olympics and Challenger League baseball. And I look at the Challenger League games and think, if they could open this up to kids who just want to go out and be outside and throw a ball and don't care about all the rigors of Little League or whatever. I would have loved that when I was a kid. They play like 3 innings. Everybody gets up to bat. Everybody gets on base. And at the end, you know, after 3 innings, everybody goes home. And it's just a nice time to be outside. There's no pressure at all. You get to keep swinging at the ball until you make contact. And I mean, it's from a point of view of baseball. It's not really baseball, but it's fun. And you get outside and you run around and you are with your friends. And I wish there was something like that for regular kids, that extremely low pressure, just for fun thing. And, you know, and it would be good to integrate that, because it would be good for kids of all abilities to be doing it together. But we seem to have stratified. I mean, I'm thinking of the dance studio that I was very, very, very involved in for a while when I was a kid. But that was before the day when there was So You Think You Can Dance and all these dance competitions for kids and all these, I mean, you get to following people who write about dance, and there's all these competitions for young people, all these layers. And I'll bet if that studio was around now, they would be super into that. And that would be a whole nother level of involvement that it just didn't exist as far as I knew. Maybe the very, very top people in our studio might go to one competition somewhere sometime, but it wasn't a thing, as it appears to be now.
And also that kind of intensity prevents kids from doing more than one thing.
Right.
Because every activity you have wants that to be your only thing.
Yes, that's true.
And that's stupid. To use an unpopular term. So
yeah. So maybe it's not just that parents have to be involved. It's that the entire family involvement is so much greater than it used to be. I mean, my mom used to have to sew me costumes, which was, you know, many a night of cursing and crying. But, you know, that was about as bad as it got.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I remember as a kid, I took piano lessons, and my teacher was super laid back, and she never did recitals.
Uh-huh.
It was just play to
Yeah.
play,
Mhm.
you know? And I feel like that is very rare these days. You know, I think it was rare then, but I think it's even more rare now. You know, it always has to be like leading towards some big performance or competition or whatever.
And I feel like, I mean, at least when I was younger, a lot of the involvement that my mom had was simply just doing the volunteer work for the organization. It wasn't necessarily for me per se, whereas I feel like parents today are there for their kids. You know, like my mom was the president of the figure skating club, and she was, you know, she did the costumes and she did the you know, skating carnivals and stuff like that, but she certainly wasn't there to cheer. You know what I mean?
To
like
watch you at every single practice.
Yeah. Oh God, no. Yeah. And I don't know if it's because we also lived in a very small community. So it was generally regarded as being safe, and kids kind of went to and from their activities on their own after school, you know, on their bikes and
their snowmobiles.
Yeah, exactly. And we would show up at home, we'd get dinner, and then we'd be out the door again. And my mom, I mean, she showed up for the big things like the finale events, but she certainly didn't come for every little thing. I wouldn't have wanted her there. I would have been so embarrassed that she was there.
Right.
And she was a stay-at-home mom. So once again, I think that most of her involvement was simply to keep the organization running, not necessarily to be my number one fan. So,
Being my number one fan was big in my mom's job description. That was for sure.
Yeah.
She was very involved.
That wasn't part of the culture of the community that I lived in.
Yeah.
It, you know, parents were very hands off, and like they just were not around really at all. I don't remember really any parents kind of being around at any of our baseball or soccer or whatever games that we were playing, unless it was a tournament, and then even then,
Yeah.
you know, it was usually just the coaches and the kids. So, yeah, I don't know if it was cultural. And then, of course, we didn't have to drive anywhere, so we didn't need our parents to drive us. I think that's another big thing that influences parents' involvement today, is that they have to drive their kids places. And so they're there, and they get out, and they become
I think I got drove, but I might have got left and then picked up later. Because I do seem to remember between dance classes going to I think it was called TG&Y, the Five and Dime, back when that was a thing, and buying candy in between.
Yeah.
So, I guess she wasn't sitting around the whole time. Maybe she was.
Yeah. So to see today's parents be that involved is really, and to have that expectation, because I know that I kind of pushed back from that a bit with Kristen after having an older child. The second one, I'm just like, I'm just going to drop you off. Meanwhile, the other mothers are looking at me, judging me harshly.
Yeah, I don't know. I, for various reasons, was much more hands-on, but I didn't really have kids you could just leave. So, so I wound up being involved, and most of the time liked it. But I'm sort of glad to, now that they're adults, I'm trying to phase back as much as I can. But, you know, I don't think there's anything that I felt like I was forced to do. I felt it was like, I want to insert myself into this process so that I can be around spying all the time. Where are the openings? Oh, yeah, I'll work at the library every day. Sure. Sign me up. Sign me up for that band committee so I know everything that's going on and don't have to rely on my daughter to tell me. Right. So there are as with everything else in parenting, there are upsides and downsides.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.